Hey Facebook friends, Marianne here. I know this is a little different angle than I usually talk to you guys with, but there is a reason for that. I know many of you probably played this little game as a kid where you said, here's the church, here's the steeple, open the door, and here's all the people. Well, there's a reason for that beyond just the hunky-dory. It wasn't just a fun thing to teach kids. And the reason is because it goes all the way back to the biblical text in which they talked about a divine marriage. And, most people are like, oh yeah, the Song of Solomon. Oh, that's just some metaphysical little erotica that they just threw in the Bible from ancient times, not relevant today. But it actually is very relevant because in the sacred marriage, it talks about mankind, humanity, all of us Homo sapiens, waiting in the wedding chamber for the groom, which is God, and the idea that there's a coming together. And beyond the metaphysical erotica aspect of it, what it was really talking about is that the sacred marriage, the bride, is all of humanity coming together. And I know I've shared with you many times before, those of you that have heard me talk about this, because I think it's also one of the most beautifully overlooked aspects of the ancient texts, which is the Ark of the Covenant. And the idea is that the angels on the Ark of the Covenant, they have their wings reaching out to each other, and they only reach out to each other like they're about to give each other a big hug when all of humanity is recognizing the presence of divinity in each other. So it's this big kind of Abrahamic namaste concept, if you will. And the reason why I'm sharing any of this at all with you is because I keep reading about how people all over our country, and I'm just going to turn this around, hopefully you guys can see this. It says, by one conservative estimate, 32,000 U.S. churches are still open for business. Can you believe that? 32,000 U.S. churches still open for business. And what I keep hearing from people is that, oh, the blood of the Lamb will protect me. God will protect me. If my faith is great enough, it will protect me. But, when you go back into that biblical text, there's also this moment in there where it talks about Christ walking around in the desert, and the devil comes and says, hey, 40 days, 40 nights, I'll spend it with you, dude. And they end up hanging out together, and he keeps tempting him and tempting him and tempting him. And eventually Jesus has enough of it, and he basically says, get away from me. But what he really says that's so important in that moment is he says, "Ye shall not tempt the Lord our God." So I could go back in there. There are a lot of other little things. I was just Googling the other day, and I also found out there's another place in there where it's talking literally where, and this is in the Old Testament, where basically it says, if you are running and hiding from an enemy and you have an opportunity to hide or to stand in front of this person that could kill you in a moment's notice, yet you should take the opportunity to hide and not just stand out there and say, God will protect me. So like, if you're looking at some kind of old horror movie and Jason, ding, 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 is coming around the corner, and suddenly you see there's an opportunity to hide, that's God intervening, giving you an opportunity to hide. There's another place in there where it talks about if you are dying and you're sick and you need medicine, and someone that says, okay, God will give this to me, God will protect me, and refuses the medicine. And it's like, no, it was God that was making the medicine exist and making the doctor who is intelligent enough to study medicine, who knows enough to tell you to take the medicine, that is God helping and intervening. Why am I sharing all this stuff? Because we seem to be having a very illogical crisis in our country right now, and especially right here in the Bible Belt. And what I mean by that, why I think it's a crisis, is it's a truly man-made crisis. And if there ever was a time when we do not need a man-made crisis, it's when there's a real crisis. I once was with a friend, and he'll know who he is. I won't say the name, but we were in a really dangerous neighborhood in Mexico City, like really bad. And for some weird reason, don't ask me why, we had to pull over to the side. Someone had to go get something, and the rest of us were in this car. Doors are locked, and we're like, okay, keep the doors locked, stay inside the car. That's the best way to be safe. And our friend who was in the back seat, this was a big guy. He ran from the back seat somehow, and I don't know how he did this. It's like he was a cat. He went from the back to the front, somehow went over the back seat, the middle seat, and got to the driver's seat, unlocked the door, and swung that door all the way open, halfway out. And we're all like, we just said everybody around here is like dangerous. Why are you exposing us to danger? And he's like, I'm claustrophobic. And so I had to ask him, I said, if there is some guy with a machine gun come down the street here, or with a knife or whatever, is your claustrophobia so strong that you would insist on keeping the door open, or would you be able to recognize that there's a real danger out there? And he said, oh, don't worry. I grew up in a dangerous place. I can overcome my claustrophobia when I have to. So I was, relief. But see, here's what's happening. Right now in our society here in the Bible Belt, we have a lot of beautiful, incredible souls that are trying to deal with the crisis of this coronavirus. And so they're grabbing for what they can control in their lives. And it's a natural reaction. So, oh, I can't control this virus going around. I can't control that I can't speak with my friend. You know, I can't control that I can't go and give my mother a hug. I can't control that I'd much rather be traveling or going to the office. So many of us have our lives put on hold right now, and it's frustrating. And I know a lot of people are dealing with real issues of depression. And so people grasp for the security blankets of what makes them feel the best. You know, like, yay, this makes me feel better. But the thing is that when you allow your fear of losing control to make you go out there and do something absolutely radical that puts yourself in danger, and then you say, but I won't be in danger because God will protect me. Well, that is the temptation of God. And when you say, you know, I must be in church, this is what God would want. Well, then if you want to look back at the Abrahamic text, the people are the bride. The people are the church. It is humanity. Anywhere humanity is the church. And if you go back into the ancient text, of course, says where two or more are there, there I will be. But I think that God was even more intimate than that. If you are one of these unfortunate people that are having to do the quarantine completely alone, then keep in mind that whatever religion you are, and I'm speaking in terms of Abrahamic traditions today, not because I follow any one of them, but because I was raised Roman Catholic and I live here in the Bible Belt, and I know a lot of people feel like they can't go against their minister, they can't go against their pastor, and so if somebody says, you must be in church, if you believe in God, you must be in church. But what I want to say is that if someone really cares about your safety and well-being, they're going to be a very responsible minister that's going to care about their flock, their congregation. So Imam, Rabbi, minister, priest, whatever tradition you are. And again, I'm sticking with Abrahamic faith because I'm here in the Bible Belt, and that's where I'm hearing the most of this happening. When someone really cares about your well-being, if there's the slightest chance you could be in danger, they're not going to say, come prove your faith by showing up and putting yourself in danger. No, they're going to say, we want you to stay safe. God exists anywhere and everywhere because God made creation. You like the taste of an apple? God made that. You like the taste of a watermelon? God made that. You like the freshness of water? God made that. You like going out into your garden and just dancing and underneath the full moon because it's just, you got to get that energy out. Guess what? God put that moon up there. You know, everything that we love is creation. So even as I enjoy my cup of tea right here, everything is of creation. Now, I'm a pagan, I admit it, and one of the most beautiful things that was ever shared with me is by one of my mentors, Phyllis Karat, and she was on something called the God Squad, and it's a TV show up in New York, and it's hosted by a rabbi and a priest, and they always have someone else who's not from the Jewish or Christian tradition, and they always give them the same thing, which is there's a lump of clay, and in the beginning, God was there, and he created the earth just like a pot. He made everything. So he sees all, knows all of the pot because he made the pot. So there's nothing in existence before the pot. Now there's existence, and we put the pot here and it exists. And he said, now you tell us with this metaphor, how does it differ? And she said, and I think this is so beautiful, she said, okay, in the beginning there was nothing. So the clay came from Creator. The clay from Creator is what was used for the pot. So yes, God sees all, knows all, but is also all things. So when you see what the Shinto or Native Americans or, the Druids, anyone who's of a more indigenous earthly tradition, and this is what resonates with me, we see there is soulfulness and spirit in all things. No, it does not mean you worship a tree, but it does mean that, for example, right now, I take this, for any of you that deal with muscle aches or anything, lavender is something that for me, makes a big difference for me. So the wonderful thing about this is all these are buds. Each one has potential for more lavender plants. And the beauty of this is in creation, every one of those has the potential, just like what we learn, photosynthesis, different pollination, all the stuff. But in a metaphysical sense, everything resonates with that first breath. So in the Jewish tradition, they talk about how, spirit first saw his reflection upon the waters and breathed life into it. And that's why you have the Jewish star. One direction, the other direction. One's the reflection, one's the reality. But anyway, the beauty of all this is to say that there is spirit inherent in all things. There's spirit in what you eat, in what you drink, in what you breathe, and of course, in each other. And when you can understand this, you can see you are not alone. No one is ever alone. Now, I know everyone's saying, oh, that's easy for you to say when you're sitting there, you got your husband sleeping upstairs, you got all this other stuff going on. No, it's not easy. But it does talk about meaning. And as we're all looking at, what does this mean economically? What's this mean psychologically? What does it mean sociologically? What's it mean? What's it mean? What's it mean? How are we going to deal with this? One of the things a lot of us are not talking about right now is a deep spiritual opportunity. I'm not saying that it's beautiful. It's not. This is an ugly, horrible disease that's tearing families apart, putting people at risk. But the beauty that can be found in there is what we choose to make if we live our lives intentionally. If we are, like those angels on the Ark of the Covenant, reaching across and saying, I recognize the presence of divinity and spirit in you. And here's a challenge for humanity right now. Can we do that with the earth? Can we look at a tree? Can we look at your pet dog, your pet cat, in my case, my pet turtle, say, I recognize the spirit of divinity in you? Can we see that in the food that we eat? My mom's part Blackfoot Indian, and she would always say, when we would say our prayers, thank God, Creator, for the blessings of what we've been given, but also if the lettuce was there in the salad, thank those leaves, thank that plant for giving its life for us. If that was sweet potato, thank that root for giving its life to us. And yes, if Dad brought home a deer or dove or duck, thank that deer or dove or duck for giving its life for us. And the reality of things in this grand circle of life, all of us are constantly giving energy to each other, constantly giving life to each other. And that is the way Spirit created this world. Because again, if Spirit is breathing life into its own reflection, that makes the most sense, because when we look at the Ark of the Covenant, those angels are reaching out for each other. Why is that namaste concept there in all sorts of traditions around the world? It's there because the key to recognizing our common humanity is even deeper than that. It's the key to recognizing our common body, our common spirit, our common soul. And this is a really trying time. This is a hard time. I look at my nephew Parker, who's out there working in the ER. I look at my friend Gina, whose husband's out there still doing his due diligence and being a police officer. I look at my sister-in-law, Stacy, who's working as a nurse. I look at all these people putting their lives on the line, and then others, with Todd Collier working with our Food Source DFW program that we have going, literally about 1,200 to 1,500 people lining up every day to get their food, looking at Quinn Cho, what she's feeding people. So many people are doing what they can. Looking at Yolanda Blue Horse, that just took a bunch of food up, thanks to all of you who contributed to that. But yes, all of us are struggling. All of us are trying to do what we can, and it's so difficult. At the end of the day, if we can truly remember in our souls that We are not separate. We are actually one being, a body of one being. The Jewish tradition has this beautiful concept in which they talk about a crystal. They call it the Shekhinah, and it broke into thousands, millions of pieces, and every one of those crystals ends up being one of our souls. And the idea is only when it all gets pieced together again can we go up. Can we have that beautiful confirmation, that beautiful communion, that beautiful connection, as again in the Song of Solomon, the story of the bride and the groom coming together. So yes, this is frustrating. I've heard that it may be another month, probably until May 1st, till we can all be back to normal. I've heard other people say June. I've heard people say not to 2021. I don't know what it's going to be. I know for myself, it is painful to go and visit my mom and see her looking at me through the glass and not going, why can't you come in? Why can't I come out? Why can't we hug? Why can't I go out with you? And thank God she has enough wherewithal that when I explain what's happening, she understands it for the duration of our conversation, although the next day I'll have to explain to her again. And it's hard. I have people that I love deeply that have dealt with depression for ages, and I hear them telling me, Marianne, this is scary because I don't know if I can deal with this during this time. And I wish I had a magic wand to help all of you out in dealing with this. I know for myself, whether it's dancing the princess kiss in the kitchen as I'm making Rice Krispie treats for my hubby, whether it is taking those midnight walks when no one else is about me, it's safe to go enjoy the full moon. I know that we can make magic through our choice of presence, our choice of how we use our time. I know this is an opportunity to be creative. I've been writing. I know you guys are probably writing. I've been reading. I hope you guys are reading. Both of us have binge watched more movies than ever before. But what we must have to really make it through this is the remembrance of connection to spirit. That it does not take putting our lives in danger and huge groups of people. That spirit lies within all of us and in all of us around us. If you are pagan like me, it's in everything. It's in nature in every way, including ourselves, including the wind, including every aspect of it. If you are Abrahamic faith, it's in every human being. Within that context, we can all agree that this whole universe is our church. Our steeple, our connection with divinity lies within. And we, the people, are the community. That we can share this community online, we can share it on the phone, and we can share it when we feel and hear. So we do not need to be putting ourselves at risk. So I want to urge all of you that are struggling out there to remember that you are part of a human family. You are cared about, and your life is divinely ordained to be here in this moment. And the reason is because there is no one in this world that can see it and recognize the aspects in it the way you can. All of your life brought you to this moment. Every action, reaction, challenge, thing you've gone through, tears you've cried, times you've screamed, times you've laughed, every aspect of it, every part of it, from joy to pain and back again, this incredible whirlwind life. And now the shared, how many times has the whole world shared reality, from Amazonian tribes to CEOs in Manhattan? All of us are dealing with the shared reality of how finite this moment is. And in it, we've been given a gift of recognizing not just our common humanity, but the deepest shared aspect of our soul's journeys. And if we can connect with that, we don't need to put ourselves at risk or anyone else at risk. And if you are dealing with loneliness, know and hear my voice when I say you matter, you are not forgotten, and your place on this earth and this time is important. So these are my 2 cents for all of you today. I hope that they resonate with some of you out there that are feeling guilty or torn about not going to a place of worship because you feel guilt tripped by the minister or pastor or whatever. Because I promise you, someone who cares about you does not want you to put yourself in danger. Anyway, I love you. I know whatever you're going to be doing during this time has great potential. So if we all wanted to put the world on hold and say, what do we think about where we are now? How do we handle this incredible racing technology? How do we get the sociological software for the for the hardware that's our technology? How do we get ourselves more in sync with each other and imagine a real world and a being? Well, it seems like nature, the divine spirit that runs all things, has given us this opportunity, and it's a painful one. Just like being sent to your room the first time when you were a teenager, if you had a good parent. They said, go to your room and think about what you've done. I'd say nature and spirit's kind of doing that with us right now. And how do we figure out how to deal with this? When you see siblings that are arguing and parents say, shut up and be quiet and don't come back down here until you guys have learned to work together. Well, that's what we've been asked to do. And if we learn to work together, wow, the things we're going to be able to accomplish. So that's the task at hand for all of us. We have more than enough resources to enter into a grand, bold new world that can be the result of true, intentional insight, deep meditation and prayer, and a place that comes from an informed society that went, whoa, where are we going? Or we can continue to go out there, helter-skelter, people beating up any Asiatic person they see, people ignoring the children in cages that are more exposed to this, people mad at, a Navy captain who decided that his men were important enough to try and make sure the world knew what was going on his ship and was willing to risk his career to do it. We could look at all these things from on high and, pat ourselves on the back for being better people because we aren't doing what we think someone else shouldn't do. Or we can have the courage to say we're going to create a world that we want to see define the future. And that opportunity doesn't come often. Actually, I don't know if it's ever happened in the history of mankind where there's a huge pause button pushed. A pause button that only Creator could implement. So, I invite you, in your own words and your own thoughts, explore these thoughts, pray over it, meditate over it, talk to your rabbi, pastor, imam, priest, priestess, whatever. Say, hey, my friend the witch over here mentioned this. But the point being, there's a lot for us to accomplish together. And if we recognize that we each have something exceptional waiting to be discovered that this world needs, and it could be something simple. Maybe you just have a beautiful and bold heart that's not afraid to care. Maybe you're the next Albert Einstein. Maybe you're a combination of the two or somewhere in between like most of us are. But whoever you are, your life has so much potential and you are put here in this moment in time to explore this world with it, create something in this world with it. And I really don't think Spirit meant for you to go and risk your life unnecessarily by going into a huge congregation with people coughing on each other, knowing that you're putting your life at risk. No, I think Creator gave us all an opportunity to live this life intentionally and wisely. And all this knowledge being tossed our way. It's like that man that, we all hear about that was put on the islands. Here comes the sailboat. Here, I want to take her. No, God will save me. The plane lands. No, God will save me. A big, huge mega ship comes by. Hey, want to join us? No, God will save me. And eventually he dies, goes to heaven. God, why did you save me? Are you kidding? I sent you that huge ship. I sent you a sailboat. I sent you the plane. That was me. Well, all these doctors and nurses and experts that are saying, don't Don't be more than 2 people. And if you aren't living with somebody in close quarters, then make sure you're 6 feet away. And if you go out, try and wear some mask over your face. Those are the planes and the boats coming by, and we are the man on the island. So let's try and recognize that God's voice isn't always going to be in a big burning bush. Let's recognize that right now it's not about putting the blood on the lamb on our door. I've actually read articles and seen videos of people saying that that's the kind of thing they're going to do. They're going to look at and only try and protect themselves by what was written in the ancient Bible ages ago. Well, if we're going to do that, then look at all of it and recognize in there where it's basically, Jesus having some real practical advice. Basically saying, we're not going to tempt God. And it seems to me like God gets tempted when people don't use the brain we've been graced with. So the greatest way to respect divinity, that great spirit that moves all things, is to respect the brain that we've been given, the brain others have been given, and say, I believe I'm going to pray in my backyard today. And if I'm going to go to church, I'll do it online. And if I need to pray with people, I can do it in Zoom, I can do it in Skype, I can do it on the phone. And by golly, I'm going to respect the privilege that this life is. So there's my food for thought. Love you all, and wishing you well.